Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Let Fear Bounce. My name is Kim Lengling, and I am so happy to have you joining myself and my guest today, Ellen Busch. Now, she knows what it means to rebuild from the ground up. After
Mhm.
escaping an abusive marriage and battling the stigma of dyslexia, she found herself at rock bottom. No job, no home, and no hope.
Yeah.
But one moment of clarity changed everything. With the help of therapy, coaching, and even training alongside U.S. Navy SEALs, Ellen began to heal, reclaim her strength, and rediscover her purpose. Now, as a certified life coach and author of Disempowered, she helps others move from surviving to thriving. Ellen, welcome, welcome to Let Fear Bounce.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you today.
Now, folks, we're going to share because we always end up talking about dogs on this show because y'all know how much I love dogs. Now, she dog sits during the day and his name is Jackson. Jackson. So if you're on YouTube, you might be seeing him make his cameo appearance off and on, off and on throughout our chat. He's a beautiful German Shepherd Husky mix. So
Yeah.
welcome Jackson as well.
Yes.
Well,
He's a
Ellen, welcome to the show. I've been looking forward to this conversation. You've got quite the background and quite the journey that you have traveled to get where
yeah,
you are today. Um, I'm gonna toss it out to you and let you start where you want to start from
sure.
how you got to where you're at today, or what was that? I know there's a pivotal moment. You said that one moment of clarity that changed everything. Why don't we
Yeah,
start there? What was that
sure.
one moment of clarity when your life felt like it imploded that you're like, got to make a change, got to do something different?
Yeah. It was really an incredible moment. So I had escaped from my ex, or soon to be ex. I had actually moved in with my parents. I was 43. I was interviewing for jobs where I was way overqualified. Um, that's the low self-esteem piece of it. And I was completely traumatized. And I was so traumatized, I was driving through stop signs and red lights and could barely function. I knew I was in trouble. And I felt like everything that I did to try and make it better was making it worse.
Mhm.
And I just didn't know what to do. And I just looked up at the sky and, you know, surrendered to the higher power. And I know a lot of this happens a lot in the recovery community, but this was more of trauma recovery. And I just said, all right, I'm turning myself over. I'm all yours. I don't know what else to do. And the instant that I took that emotional step or energetic step, I felt a connection that I hadn't felt in a long time. And I suddenly knew that everything was going to be okay. And I had tears streaming down my face. I mean, it was really an incredible moment. And that's when my healing process and
Mhm.
my rebuilding process really began.
I
And
hear you. I hear you
yeah,
on that.
it was really a good 10 years plus. But that's where it began. And it did start to get better every day. It got a little bit better. And it needs to get better slowly because otherwise you're going to go into shock.
You're right. You're right. One thing at a time. And that's hard to do.
It
I
is.
myself had a very similar experience where that moment of clarity where it just, you give it up.
Yeah, you let
And
go.
I recall myself saying, please, please, crying out to a God that I had told myself I didn't believe in. But how can you cry out to something that you don't believe in? You know, and that's just, from
Right.
my own
Right.
personal thing. But I understand and can resonate with that moment of clarity. How you said it just came upon you. Now, of course, things aren't beautiful, lickety split right in that moment, but that was your first step
Correct.
towards, okay, I can breathe. I can do this. What's the first step I need to do? Share a little bit about what brought you to that point.
I knew I was in trouble. I understood that I was traumatized, but I didn't understand the extent of the trauma because when you're in it,
Mm,
It's very impossible to see it because we all have blind spots.
right.
So I just, I knew that I looked back and I saw that there were patterns in my life. And the patterns all were associated with low self-esteem and low self-worth. And I kept attracting narcissists, abusive managers, predators. I had two stalkers. And I knew if I didn't take a long, hard look at myself, I was going to repeat this pattern
Mm.
if I didn't figure out what was going on, what was causing this. And when I understood that I needed to do that, I understood that my life was at stake
Mm.
because I got out of the marriage safely. And if I continued down this path, it was just going to happen again. And I wasn't willing to be a statistic. I wasn't willing to just give up on myself. And I wanted more. I wanted to live a full, healthy life. And I was willing to take a look at or do whatever I needed to do to make sure that I didn't repeat that pattern and I break the pattern.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
It is. And it's a big commitment.
Yes, it is.
But I really believed that my life was at stake. My life was in danger in my marriage. And I didn't understand that until I was able to look back at it and had some advice from a very
Mm.
good attorney. So I just,
I was gonna ask, did you have
yeah,
a sort of or any support system while you were, because I understand that your marriage was an abusive marriage, but you in your bio it says you live with dyslexia and other things from when you were younger.
yeah,
Did all of that play a part in,
absolutely.
I'm assuming that the low self-esteem, the low self-worth, like were your thoughts like something along the lines of, well, this is as good as it gets?
When I got married, I knew I was settling.
Oh,
And
okay.
but I didn't understand that he was an abusive narcissist.
Mm.
I did not understand that. They're so good. They're masters at
Oh, I
hiding
know.
that.
Mm-hmm.
They are very good. And it, yeah, I knew I was settling, but I had this belief about myself because of the dyslexic label, which is something that was imposed on me when I was 6 or 7 years old, that I was brain damaged, broken, and my parents were actually told that I would never be academically successful and that they should focus. This actually happened in a parent-teacher conference. The administrator said you should focus on finding a husband who will take care of her because she might graduate from high school, but college is out of the question. Yeah. So, and my parents were furious. So to
And
answer your question
back
about
in
the
that
support,
time frame,
this
that's
was in the
all they
70s.
knew. They were like
That was their belief.
yes, that's what they knew. I mean, we look at it now
Right.
going, are you kidding me? But back then, that's what, because I don't think they added labels that were incorrect labels.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a belief,
Wow.
and it's still out there that um, it dyslexia equates with low IQ and
Hmm.
laziness. Those are the two most common things that I hear, and nothing could be further from the
Right.
truth. For me, I scored 114 on an IQ test when I was 6. When I was given the WIS test, I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a Whistler intelligence test, and it has different categories. And in abstract reasoning, I scored in the 99th percentile. In logic, I scored in the 98th percentile. But that was ignored because my reading skills and math skills were low.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that label and that belief system and that trauma, and believe me, when you're written off by teachers and administrators, that is traumatic to a 6-year-old.
I was going to say, and at that age,
It
that sets how you're going to look at yourself moving forward.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that snowballs into
Mm.
adulthood. And then, you have no belief in your own capabilities. You have no self-esteem. And so, of course, I was targeted by stalkers and predators, man to marry. I was the perfect prey. I didn't understand that I was prey until I started training with Mark Devine in the Navy SEALs. And we fixed that one. We fixed that big time.
Isn't that awesome?
Oh, it was great. Nothing like training with the best warriors in the world to change up your self-esteem a
Oh,
little.
exactly. I trained with a combat Vietnam vet. He's a triple black
Uh-huh.
belt,
Oh yeah,
and
there's another example.
he and his wife would come here, and he taught me and his wife at my house, and then in turn taught my daughter.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, yeah, 'cause I've went through my own stuff where
Hmm.
I was prey, and I'm like, never again.
Yeah, and that's where I am right now. Never
Uh-huh.
again.
Yeah.
Never again. And I've done
Good
other
for you.
training.
Good for
Yeah.
you. Because the way I look at it is, and it's, and I'm gonna say it, badass,
Yeah, absolutely.
and you got to look
Yeah.
in the mirror and say, yeah, I can take care of myself.
Yeah. I just wasn't going to accept that kind of treatment again. And again, I come back to, you know, my life was in danger.
Mm.
And I had to take that those steps to make sure I protected myself. And I think my example is pretty extreme. Though there are, but a lot of women are and men are in abusive relationships and partnerships. In fact, I don't know if you're aware, but in our country, in the United States, 3 women and 1 man are murdered every day due to an intimate partner abuse.
I am not surprised by that
Yeah, and
statistic.
it's so there is a real danger. And
Yeah.
and I think because I felt this physical life-threatening danger, that was my motivation to take these steps. And my motivation to seek out training with SEALs and also trained with a retired FBI agent, Krav Maga expert.
So how did you get hitched up with a Navy SEAL?
So Mark Devine has a program called the Unbeatable Mind Program, and it is specifically for civilians.
Oh,
He also,
okay.
yeah, he's written 5 New York Times bestsellers. He just got his
I think I
PhD
know
in
who you're
leadership.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has in-person events and he has online training and then on, webinar, Zoom meetings and webinars. And I have attended 6 in-person events in San Diego with him and his cadre of coaches, many of who are retired Navy SEALs or former, or there's a couple that will actually come and be coaches in his program who are active duty. They're just on a down cycle.
Yep.
So it's the kind of program you can just sign up. And I did. And the first time I went, I had an incredible transformational experience. So I went back again. And I've been a part of his program, and that's since December of 2016.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah,
Yeah. We'll have to put the link of that in the show notes and such.
absolutely. It's a fantastic program.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
So you got out of the marriage, you had that moment
Mhm.
of clarity
Yeah.
where you're like, I got to make a change. What was the first thing that you did to change or to put
Um,
or to put in place to work towards?
yeah. Well, fortunately, I had a good support system and I was in a safe environment because I was with my parents.
Hmm.
And my dad, who was also an Army veteran, my ex-husband was very frightened of him, and that was wise. So I knew that I was physically safe. So that was really the first thing that needed to happen. And
Hmm.
anybody who's in this situation and making a change, you have to be physically safe before you can take those next steps. And then I went to work with coaches and therapists. And it wasn't until a couple years later when I found Mark's program and started the thriving process. Um, there was healing that still continued, but working with the life coaches and trauma credentialed, and I'm always very careful to talk about who you choose to work with. Please make sure they are credentialed. And if something doesn't feel right, don't stick around. Um, did a ton of EMDR work, and that was incredibly effective. But it took time. and it was a one step, one foot in front of the other kind of event. The coach who I worked with was absolutely extraordinary. And he helped me make some major strides forward, specifically in the belief around the dyslexic label.
Mm,
And I wrote about this in my book, and we just had a moment where he actually said to me, because at this point I had earned my bachelor's and my master's degree, something they said couldn't be done.
right.
So, so I did check that box, right? And he said to me, he said, Ellen, I'm actually kind of intimidated working with you. You're a ski instructor and you have an advanced degree. And I was like, wait, what? How can, what? That does not compute in my head. And I was like, no, Rafe, you don't understand. I'm dyslexic. I will never be successful. I'm brain damaged. I'm a second-class citizen. So this is me in my 40s, still believing that
Still
idea had been
saying that.
imposed on me.
Yeah.
And he said to me, Ellen, you have been gaslighted into believing that. And that was another turning point for me because I was like, oh my God, he's right. And I was ready to hear it. And when I heard that, that started to change everything because I thought, okay, what if he's right? What if I'm not broken? What if I'm not brain damaged? Then that opens up a whole cascade of other questions. Things like, well, if I'm not that, then who am I?
Mm.
So I actually had to let go of that piece of my identity. And that involved a grieving process.
Indeed.
So
Yeah.
it was a really interesting thing to go through. Um, and again, it took time and I just worked at it. And every day I felt a little bit better. Every coaching session, I felt a little bit better. Every EMDR session, I felt a little bit better. So it worked. It just took time and patience.
And it's a constant, it's a continuous journey. It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. We're like, I call ourselves spiritual, emotional onions.
You're right.
There's always another layer.
Yeah, all those layers. You're right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. And now, okay, you've written a book called Disempowered.
Yep, there it is.
At what part? Oh, beautiful. I love that. Hold the cover up again. Oh, so all of you folks that are listening, hop on the YouTube channel and you can see the beautiful cover of this book.
Yeah.
Links and all of that will be in the description and show notes as well. But you wrote that book. At what point on this journey did you decide to write a book about it?
Well, I knew I'd had some wonderful adventures. So it's not just about trauma and healing. I've also
Mhm.
been a ski instructor. I've skied in Europe. I've been heli skiing. I'm also a very experienced scuba diver. So there's some fun things in here, in addition to the challenges and perseverance that I've been through.
But there are challenges in all of that and fears that you have to face, I am sure.
Exactly. And that's kind of the point. So one of the things that my dad sent me on when I was 15 was Outward Bound. And for those of you who don't know, Outward Bound is outdoor education challenge experience. And it's an international organization. It's very well respected, has been around since the end of World War II. And basically they take students, and it can be teenagers or adults, and they put you in challenging situations. And you have to learn to persevere through them. Now they
Mhm.
guide you, you're with coaches, you're with instructors. But I spent 2 weeks whitewater rafting, hiking, climbing, and rappelling on the Green River in Utah at 15.
That sounds amazing.
It was game changer for me.
Yeah.
Absolute game changer. So, but to come back to your question, so I escaped from my ex-husband in January 23rd, 2013. I started to put my life back together, started to heal, and then December 6th, 2013, I lost my mother in a tragic pedestrian accident.
Mm.
She was Christmas shopping and was in the crosswalk and struck by a truck. I mean, just unbelievable. Talk about shocking. 3 days later, we were donating her organs. So at that point, I mean, that was 10, 11 months. and I knew I had a story to tell. And that was when I decided I was going to write. I didn't really dive into it till a couple of years later because I needed to have more recovery time.
Mm.
And what I also didn't understand at the time was that I had more chapters to live that would be part of the book that hadn't even happened yet. But I felt this sense of responsibility. And Joseph Campbell refers to this as the hero's journey, that when you go through a big challenge and you survive and you get through it, the last part of the hero's journey is to bring what you've learned back to your tribe. And I feel so, it's so important to me that I do that because what I've learned is valuable and it
Mhm.
matters. And it,
Indeed. Yes, I agree. I've so many folks over the years that I've met, not only through my podcast, but I'm a veteran, so I work with a lot of veterans over
oh,
the last 25 years. I'm an advocate for veterans, especially those that live with PTSD. And there's so many moments along the way where I realize, okay, this is a moment where I'm supposed to share a little bit of my story
yep.
because they're willing and open to hear it so they can see themselves a little bit and say,
Mhm.
oh, okay. And I call those nuggets of hope,
Yes. And
you
they're
know. And
connections.
I just want to toss out nuggets of hope. And I look back on some of my journey and I'm like, "Ugh, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And I'm sure you feel the same.
Absolutely.
But from where I'm standing today,
Mhm.
I can understand why I went through a lot of it.
Yes.
Because if I had not,
Mhm.
I would not be able to toss out nuggets of hope.
Exactly.
And it
Wouldn't feel
sounds like
disturbed.
you have a
Oh,
very
yes.
similar unfolding, if you
Yeah.
will, of how that works. So you decided you got to share your story and get that out in the world because your book is going to be a nugget of hope or is a nugget of hope to folks. What made you come up with the title?
Oh, I can't take credit for that. So actually, there's a funny story there. So I was really struggling with the title, and I'm a big skier and live here in Colorado. And I was skiing with my best friend Sarah and her boyfriend Ronnie. And at the end of the day, we went to this little pub in Vale after skiing and called Garfinkel's, to have a drink and get something to eat. And I asked her for help, and I was reading off this list of different ideas, and she was like, "No, no, no, no." And she said, "How about disempowered with the DIS crossed out?" And I just looked at her and went, "Oh my God, that's it." So nothing like having a trusted best friend to help you figure out your title for your book.
I love those brainstorming type things that happen
Yeah, yeah,
because
and
sometimes we're so stuck in our own little bubble.
exactly.
You need someone from outside it to look at it and then they come up with something you never would have thought of.
Yes.
And yeah, that light bulb moment. Yes. Oh, perfect. I love that story.
True story. And it also, I think, is a testament to our friendship and how well she knows me. Because if she wasn't that good of a friend, it would not have come to fruition.
Right. So when was the book published?
It came out May of 2023.
And do you
So
have anything else on the back burner to follow that up?
actually, I've started writing again.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it's going to be a continuation of this. My working title is Grace in Motion.
Oh, awesome. I love that.
Isn't that a nice title? Finding stillness in the flow of life. So again, persevering through challenges, I've converted over to be a telemark skier, which is when the heel is actually free, even though you're on alpine terrain. And each turn is a lunge. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense to people, but go ahead and, YouTube it and you'll find it. Um, and that has been a massive challenge for me, a massive physical and technical challenge. And to finally get into a place where I can do that and get into flow state, I'm sure you're familiar with the term flow state, um, is really an accomplishment. And I'm learning more and more about flow state, time and silence, stillness, and how important that is, not just for healing, because my healing journey is not complete. I'm
Right.
still healing. I'm still digging up things, but I'm out there looking for them
Yeah.
because I don't want those traumatic things playing around in my subconscious affecting my life.
And
Instead,
coming out and surprising you.
exactly, I'm taking it on like a warrior, like
Mhm.
Mark Divine trained me. Go after those issues and conquer them. Then
Mhm.
I'm in charge. Otherwise, trauma is in charge, and I'm not going to allow trauma to be in charge.
That is right.
I'm done with that. So, and to constantly, it becomes an inverse relationship. The healing drops off and then the thriving kind of increases, but the healing doesn't stop. And telemark skiing and taking on that incredibly difficult challenge was one of the ways for me to focus on thriving.
That's
And I
awesome. I love
enjoyed
that.
it.
I
Yeah.
love that because you're finding that a lot of that while you're outdoors.
And
And
that's
that's
why,
where I can honestly say, and I've talked to so many other folks too, and I'm sure you have too. That's where I find the majority of that peace, that ability to, I always say, I breathe better.
oh
I can
yes,
breathe. And so, grounding, you're ground.
yes,
I am outside as much as I can be, and I
yes,
just love being outdoors, and I walk every day, 4.5, 5 miles with my dog, and I live in the country. So to me, nature is so healing, being out there and just breathing, no matter the weather or the season.
I agree 100%.
That's why there is certain gear and certain clothing for each season. Go out and buy yourself some good solid stuff and get
Exactly.
outside. So people are like, oh, you go out there in the winter? Yeah, I have a really good coat and really good boots, so
Exactly. And mittens and hats.
yes,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
care
not
what I look
rocket
like. I'm
science.
getting outside.
Yes, exactly. Well,
And my dog has a solid coat,
yeah,
I
exactly.
even wrap him up in a jacket when it's on those sub-zero temperatures.
Oh,
But
when it gets
yeah,
really cold.
just
Yeah.
get outside, folks. And I know a lot of folks, you live in cities or maybe you live in apartments and stuff. There are parks, there are places that you can get to. And if you can't, I had someone that lived in the city and said, it's not real conducive for me to get to a green spot. And I said, well, you have a balcony? Yeah, I have a tiny little balcony. Then plant a whole bunch of plants.
Yeah, I love it. Create it.
Yeah, create your green space.
Exactly.
And if you don't have a balcony, put it near the window. So, you have a wall of, trees and plants and ferns and whatever it is you want, get that green stuff around you and just make a space for you where you can get that feel of nature and be able to breathe. That's
Yeah,
how I always say I breathe. That's where I breathe, I pray, and my best thoughts come are when I'm
absolutely.
outside.
We're meant to be in nature. We're not really meant to be indoors the way we so often are in front of our computers all the time.
Yeah, get away from
So,
the screens, folks.
mm-hmm,
Your
mm-hmm.
laptops, your
Yep,
computers, your phones, your iPads, whatever it is you call them, whatever you have, get away from them. That life does not exist in there.
right,
Life exists with you doing, not this.
right, right.
Because in the long run, it's very unhealthy.
It very unhealthy and also makes you vulnerable to predators if you're doing it in public because
Yes.
you're distracted.
But
And a
that,
lot of
I
people
mean,
forget that.
it's such a strange time we live in now. Everything is technology. And
Mhm.
the more it becomes more technology, the more I'm stepping away from it.
Right.
I have found that in the season of life that I'm in right now. So I'm like, I'm spending even more time outside. You
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
okay, time has flown. Time has
Yes.
flown. This has been such an awesome There's so much more we could talk about.
Oh my gosh, we go on for hours.
Yes, we could. Yeah. We might have to do this again.
I'd love
So
to.
let folks know where they can find you, your book, and all your good stuff.
Sure. So I'm on Amazon, of course. My book is also on Audible because a lot of my readers are dyslexic. So some people prefer the Audible books. My website is ellenbusch.com. I'm available for coaching. I do consultation calls if people just want to meet me. I coach on a bunch of different topics. And then I've been doing podcasts all over the world. The dyslexic topic and women's issues is an international topic. So I've done a lot with the UK. Commonwealth countries. So really, if you just Google my name or put it into YouTube, a lot of my talks will come up, and I'm
Okay,
available.
so now that we've got that out of the way, everybody, that
Sure.
will all be in the show notes and the show description. So you'll be able to check out all of her stuff. I ask all of my guests as we round up the show to please toss out a nugget of hope. So, what is your nugget today for the listeners?
I think it's that no matter what you've been through, you can heal and you can learn to thrive, reinvent yourself, take your life back, but it takes commitment and it's not something you do alone. Finding other veterans, if you're a veteran with post-traumatic stress, working in that community, finding a community of people who could support you, credentialed, licensed mental health and professionals, and then also the spiritual side, what's
Mhm.
important to you. Our energy and our spirit I believe, comes first. We have to heal that first before the rest of our world heals. But it can be done. I've done it. But again, you got to make a commitment to it and you got to go for it and ask for help.
Indeed. Now, I want to toss out the National Crisis Hotline number since we're on this topic. I like to do this every once in a while. That number, if you are in crisis or you feel like you don't have someone you can turn to, you can dial 988, and that's the NAT for the United States, folks. 988, and that gets you to the National Crisis Hotline. If you are a veteran, 988, and then press 1. That is what gets you directly to the Veteran Crisis Hotline. Please reach out if you need to, folks, if you feel that you don't have a trusted individual that you can turn to in a time of need, or you just need someone to talk to. You just need some guidance.
Yeah.
So, Ellen, this has been such a pleasure to have you on Let Fear Bounce today. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And yeah, we're going to have to do this again soon, lady.
I'd love to.
All right. Thank you. And everybody out there listening and tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in each Wednesday. New episodes are uploaded on YouTube as well as on Spotify and most of your favorite listening platforms. My name is Kim Lengling, and I am the host of Let Fear Bounce. Everybody be well, stay well, and above all, be blessed.
Thank you.
Kindness. It's simple, powerful, and free. Yet, it holds the extraordinary ability to change someone's day or even their life. Order your copy of Nuggets of Hope, Cultivate Kindness on Amazon.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let Fear Bounce. New episodes drop each week, folks, on YouTube and Spotify and most listening platforms. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all the things. So until next time, folks, take a deep breath, be kind to yourself, and as always, let fear bounce.